Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live. And we have a great guest. Well, we always have great guests, but today we have with us Laura Klieves, our VP of People. Hello, Laura. I'm Tjitske,
Hello.
by the way, just so people
Hello,
know.
everyone. I'm coming from our little teeny tiny phone booth in Santa Clara.
We were saying, Laura and I have been with Malwarebytes probably forever anyway, but today we are having a big glasses and bold lipstick battle.
Absolutely.
So put in the comments who wins this.
I think so. I like those. Those are even bigger than mine.
My dad every time says, like, can you get any bigger glasses? Every time I buy a new one, he's like,
100%.
are these bigger than the
Always. Yeah.
other?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Every time I see your last name, I'm like, I have to, it reminds me of Anne of Cleves, Henry the
Oh,
Eighth
yes. Yes.
wife
Yes.
that survived.
I know the
Is that,
survivor. I love that. Yay.
is she, are you a descendant of herself?
Who knows? I mean, and it's actually Klieves is how it's pronounced, but that's okay. That's my husband's name, and it's German. And I
Hmm,
thought, I'm Scottish, Irish, English, German, and so is he. We're mutts. So who knows? It's not
I love it.
spelled like Anne of Cleves, but you never know. I mean, aren't we all descendants and immigrants and we're just mutts. So
We
there you
are
go.
mutts.
Yeah,
And I was going to pronounce it in the German way, but I was like,
that's quite all right.
is it Cleves?
Cleves,
Because I'm,
Clives, Clevis. I respond to pretty much any of it. Yeah,
well, welcome. I'm just going to call you Laura. That's,
that's perfectly fine.
we can't really go wrong with that. Thank you for coming. We always want to have the people behind Malwarebytes on, I was going to say our podcast, it's not really a podcast, on our program. And you have been with Malwarebytes quite a long time. And I wanted you to be on this one for a long time. So I'm very happy that you're here today. And we
Thank
just
you.
wanted to talk a little bit about like who's Laura and a little bit about your background and if you can comment on that, like what's your background? How did you get into cybersecurity and Malwarebytes in
Sure.
general? And
Sure. Yeah. Well, let me take you back just a little bit before I joined in November of 2019. 2015, around Christmas time, I called a old family friend of ours. His name's Mike. And I said, hey, Mike, come on over Christmas. We're doing dinner, blah, 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 blah. Now,
hmm
Mike is a retired teacher. He taught with my dad. He was one of my eighth grade teachers. So I have a long history with Mike.
hmm
Mike's never been married, no kids, really no family to speak of after his mom passed away. He's an only child. So when Mike said, no, I'm sorry, I can't come to Christmas, I was like, oh, okay. And so I asked a few
hmm
questions. He did some things, he had some friends. And so I asked some questions. And what came out was he couldn't come because he couldn't afford gifts. And so I said, well, first of all, Mike, you don't need to bring gifts. Second of all, what do you mean you can't afford it? He's on a pension. He's, a retired teacher. He should have money. And what came out was he was waiting for a big award to arrive. And I went, bingo,
hmm
he's being scammed. So I met with him, I talked with him, we went to the bank, we, shut down his cell phone, I went through his email and cleared things out and blocked things, and that was in 2015.
hmm
Um, Fast forward past the time I joined Malwarebytes, in 2020, I realized he was being scammed. Again, same people had come back to feed off of him. By then, his dementia was quite apparent, and it took a couple of years for me to
Wow.
navigate through all of that with him. Pandemic, it's hard to meet up with people. We finally got him into a retirement home, and that was the only place that he was ultimately going to be safe for his
hmm
dementia, but also from the scammers because they were literally coming to his door. So when I was interviewing for Malwarebytes, I had Mike in my mind because there are
hmm
so many mics in the world. And what we do here day in and day out for the general consumers and for businesses matters. And I
Hmm.
wanted to support the people who were doing the hard work to protect the mics of the world.
Yeah.
Um, if you all haven't had a personal uh, relationship with someone who is being scammed, it is devastating. And, trust me when I say it was probably about $150,000 these
Um,
people took from a pensioner. Now, his dementia doesn't help, but that's what they are
hmm.
counting on. So anyway, that's why when I was interviewing and got the call about the position here, I thought, wow, there's a company mission I can get behind and really feel like, what I do every single day actually matters to the
Hmm.
bigger world.
That
Yeah.
is, I mean, that's a story, and it's a story that we do hear a lot, and it's the preying on these people that are, and and in a lot of cases, it's people who may not have
Mhm.
family or friends who
Yep.
would be cybersecurity, because
Yeah.
who does have cybersecurity specialist friends?
Exactly. And
And
and by the way, he's got Malwarebytes on his mobile phone.
they
Yeah. Hmm.
we
Now he
and we
does.
need
Now he
now he
does.
does, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
these stories indeed that we hear them every day, and it's that generation as well that build up their wealth, that worked all their
Mhm.
lives and then get scammed out of like the money that they have saved up for you know their pension for the 20, 30 years that they can just
I know.
live
I
and
know.
enjoy without having to work. And this is what they prey on, and it's such a
Yep.
sad story
Yep.
that they came in again and targeted
Yep.
him again.
Yep.
And what
Yep.
did you do the second time? Was it more difficult than the
Oh,
first time, or?
yeah. The first time I checked in with Mike afterwards and he said, yeah, no, everything had quieted down and all of that. The second time his dementia was pretty well cemented. Um, and in hindsight, he probably was already experiencing some dementia 5 years earlier.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, what I have learned about that disease is that people with dementia, particularly early onset, they're very good at masking. And so everything's okay when it's really not okay, but
Mhm.
they don't know that it's not okay unless they're divulging. So I just went in deep. It was in the middle of COVID in August, and I just looked at my husband. I said, once I start doing this, we're doing this for the rest of his life. And so I became power of attorney over finances and healthcare, and Mike was fine with that. And I think I changed his phone number like 9 times. Email, I pretty much locked down and turned off on his devices, so he couldn't even get to email. He didn't know anymore, really. Um, I had 99 numbers blocked at AT&T,
Wow.
99 numbers. And it just was a thing. And they were coming to his house to pretend they were locksmiths or tow truck drivers so they could get his new phone number. And I actually
That's
spoke to them a few times, and there was somebody who came to his home the Thursday before we moved him to his retirement community trying to do this. And I was there and I was video recording the guy. Eastern European accent.
hmm.
And he kept saying, why are you video recording me? And I said, why are you trying to scam my friend? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a 2-year journey and really exhausting. And I talked to the local authorities. I went to the police several times. I even talked to the FBI and got into, I don't
Wow.
national security, but something like that. They've got it all online. And look, it happens all the time unless it's a major large dollar amount. They take that information. I'm sure they're using that information to connect the dots behind the scenes, but unless there's another human helping that person,
Hmm.
there's nothing that the law enforcement can really do at this moment in time. Yeah, it's pretty tragic. And yeah, the good news is he's safe. I go see him
Yeah.
every couple of weeks, and he's being cared for, and the scammers can't get to him. The bad news is he hates the food.
Yeah. Is it like, and this is the thing as well, like what you're saying about these things is like these days scammers are getting more sophisticated anyway.
Absolutely.
They like even the robocalls that we've been talking about
Mm-hmm.
previously, and you know yourself, like my parents' generation, for instance, if somebody
Yep.
calls, that's an urgency. For me, it's the same. If somebody calls, it's an urgency, right? If
Yeah.
I wouldn't,
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. My dad had that when my dad was alive. He passed about 13 years ago, but he had a call from my cousin Mike. And it was
Mhm.
one of those, the voice and hey, I need money and all of that. And thankfully, my dad was like, "Oh, this is interesting." At first he kind of panicked and thought, "Oh my God, Mike's in trouble." And then he
Yeah.
realized I'm not really sure if this is Mike or where Mike's at. So he said, "Can I get the phone number?" The person gave him a number. Who knows if it was a real number or
Hmm.
not? Probably not. But anyway, my dad got off the phone and called me, and I said, "Oh, 100% that's a scam." And I wasn't even
Yeah.
here yet. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, I got an email from one of our coworkers a month and a half, 2 months ago, needing help within Workday with banking information. And I finally slacked our coworker and he said, "Yeah, that's not me. That's not my email address." So these people are really tricky. Even with us in
Yeah.
cybersecurity, you've got to be constantly alert. I would rather delete a text or delete an email
Yeah.
and miss a payment than unfortunately get scammed.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's a real life thing out there. We know that because we're in it.
Hmm.
But I try to every time I see a posting on social media, okay, little dirty secret of mine. I love Nextdoor, so I go on Nextdoor and see what's going on. And anytime I see a posting from somebody saying scam, or maybe it's a scam, I'm like, it's a scam, full stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm also in that area of I even had it earlier. I saw a phone call coming in from a number that I didn't know, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
well, I'm gonna Google it first
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
see what it is, because
Yeah.
if it's not a number that I don't know, I am not going to pick it up anymore.
If you're
It's
not in
just
my
we're
phone
there.
with a real name, I'm not picking it up. Just not gonna
Exactly.
do it. Yeah, and
That's
people get
exactly it.
that. When I say, "Oh, sorry, it took me a minute to get back to you, and this is why," people are
Hmm.
like, completely understand.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
And it's
I
better
just
than
wish all of these scammers could use their smarts for good in the world. Imagine all of that power focused on, I don't know, solving world hunger or housing for the I mean, God, could we do something good with all of that? But nope.
exactly. But no, unfortunately, scammers. I don't
Mhm.
know why. Like, there's a lot of money going, and then I think this is something that, like, it's literally hundreds of billions that these scammers earn every
Yeah,
single year. It's incredible how much money is involved in this kind of stuff. But this is why we're here. And like what
that's
I
exactly
to go
right.
kind of go back to, like, I love it when you said, like, when you went in for the interview, you knew that this is a company that does something that matters, because
Yep.
that is something that I felt
Yep.
immediately as well. When I came into that interview, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I've worked in tech before. I've been a translator before. which is also great. But it just feels
Mhm.
so much bigger
Yep.
than um, all of that, which is also important, but it just feels so much bigger. And if you see the number of scams and the number of malware, etc., coming in every single day, every single minute, every single second, we have great researchers here that do the research. It can almost be overwhelming, but this is also why we're here to make it a little bit less overwhelming. And I kind of wanted to tie that into um, you've been in Malwarebytes a few years. How you're in the people team right now, so you're doing a
Yep.
lot with like culture, making sure people are on the right career path. You're doing a lot with everything around recruitment. Of course, you've got your people in your team. What is important to you, and what was your journey even in Malwarebytes? Because you didn't start as a VP of people.
No,
You
no.
started in a different
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, and I think I've shared this story with people. This is my second career. My first career was in marketing and advertising, and I was in marketing and advertising for a long time. I mean, the gray
Mhm.
hair is natural, and I come by
I
it
love it.
lots of hard work and stress. Um, and about, oof, gosh, now probably 16-ish years. I got the opportunity to work for a company, but not in the traditional marketing sense. I was, VP, director of client communications and
Hmm.
client relationships and all of that. So I was on the account side, managing accounts and all of that. But this opportunity was with a presentation company, and I was going to be leading and building their training academy. Now,
Hmm.
no experience in HR, none, zero. I knew what it was. I liked some of the people in HR. I didn't like some of the people in HR. And, I
Hmm.
knew the basics, but I went in to Duarte and using my experience in marketing and advertising and taking Nancy Duarte's books that she was writing her
Hmm.
IP, we created a training academy. And so I spent the next almost 10 years running that business. So building building curriculum, running the facilitator teams, running sales, also facilitating myself. And
Hmm.
that was a new skill for me. I'd never was really comfortable speaking to a lot of people and doing presentations just made me
Hmm.
completely nervous, like it does most people. So learning how to facilitate, that's a whole nother conversation you and I should talk about
We
how
will.
I actually got to facilitate my that it's a crazy trip. But anyway, so I came into HR through learning and development. So
Hmm.
that's what I was hired to do here at Malwarebytes. I was leading the L&D team. Kyle was here, Monica was here, Jemai was here. We had a few people kind of doing things on the edges, but needed to build a true learning and development because we do
Hmm.
believe in learning and development. In fact, one of our values was always learning, and now it's always growing. So it's
Hmm.
hardwired into our DNA here. And yeah, so I did that for a couple of years, and then Camellia decided to leave, and they reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in taking on the VP head of people role. So I said yes. And
Nice.
here I am all these years later. So yeah.
I love it. And we're talking a lot about culture. And like
Mhm.
culture is such a corporate word on one hand, right? But what I really love is, when I joined Malwarebytes, and this was before the pandemic, there was such a great buzz. There was always a great buzz. People were always feeling great. And of course, with the pandemic set in, and like every company who
Yep.
went almost remote, um, it was a little bit more challenging, but I do feel
Mhm.
that there is such a big community, and more, there's such a big community and such a sense of belonging in this company. And I think that goes from bottom up and also from top down, I
Yeah.
think. And with that part of culture, we also talk about diversity. It is something that we find very important in this company. And
Absolutely.
I know that you are such a big advocate of diversity and inclusion, and with your work, of course, at the board of the Rosa Derivator. Look that up, people. It's amazing. Her story is there's another great story next to it. Um, I want to talk to you about diversity in Malwarebytes. What is important? How do we use that value in real life? Why is this important, and how do we use it in
Yeah.
Malwarebytes?
Wow. Such a big topic and so little time. Particularly given things that are moving and shifting and reshaping here in the United
Hmm.
States. This is such an important topic. Um, Diversity, equity, and inclusion is good for business. Full
Hmm.
stop. Any company that is making products or selling services needs to have diverse voices at the table,
Yeah.
and not just sitting at the table, actually participating. That's the inclusion part.
Hmm.
You can't just check a box and say, yeah, we're diverse, and not actually um, let all of those voices speak and share
Hmm.
opinions and perspectives and experiences. It all builds together. I mean, we talked at the top of our time together about being mutts.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, diverse voices are mutts. That's not what I'm equating,
Hmm.
but it's the collective experience that
Hmm.
we all bring to the table. My experience in marketing and advertising helps with the communication during COVID.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I joined 3 months before COVID, and I took all of that marketing
Hmm.
experience and helped to navigate all of us home, how to work remote, how do we manage remote, all of that. I'm not saying it's me, I did it all. I'm just saying that that experience, while not doesn't seem necessarily relevant in the world of, human resources,
Hmm.
help us. Um, there's so many examples in the world about products that miss because of unconscious bias. I'm going to
Yeah.
be I'm going to want to believe that nothing is created and made intentionally wrong, but there's
Hmm.
so many examples of that. Things that, I think it was Apple, or, one of the smartphone companies, I don't want to put this on Apple, that, had a scrolling feature, but it's meant for right-handed people. So when you
Yeah.
put something the other way, it didn't
Hmm.
work if you were a left-handed person. So there's so many examples about that. And I just believe that, um, you know, whatever you call it, invite people in, and not
Yeah.
just to sit there and remain silent. They need to participate. It's like
Yeah.
um, going to a party and not being asked to dance. Okay, you can be diverse, everybody's at the party, but if you're not actually
Hmm.
asking those folks to dance and participate, then you really are only checking boxes. So I look around at, and I'm glancing around the office here. I
Hmm.
look around at all the um, different experiences and thinking and wisdom that our collective teams bring to Malwarebytes every single day. And that again is helping us to build better products and services so
Yeah.
that we can help the mics of the world. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
so Yeah, I have to kind of turn off my filter right now, or my hearing when I hear certain phrases about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I fully support it. I think it's absolutely the right thing that the entire world should be driving and striving for. And yeah, well, we're gonna see how this all plays out. But yeah, now
We
you
will
know where
still
I stand.
be, yeah, well, we will still focus on this here.
A
And I think
hundred
that's very,
percent.
when
Because
I think, yeah, sorry.
because it's good business. I mean, there's
Hmm.
plenty of examples. It's great business.
Hmm.
So, if when in doubt, follow the money, and it is really good business.
It really is. And when we talked to Charles Opperman
Mm.
a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
who's a big advocate for accessibility in tech. Indeed,
Yes.
like what you were saying with the right-handed scrolling, it's the same with accessibility. We need to make sure that our products work
Yep.
across the board
Yep.
for everybody,
Yeah.
especially for those who might not have the same abilities as you and I have. And
Absolutely.
this is why it's so important to have those voices.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of skipped over because I wanted to talk to you about like opportunities, etc. In Malwarebytes, but for some weird reason, this is how my brain works.
It's okay. It's all
I
good.
kind of wanted
It's
to
just
talk
you
to
and
you.
me talking.
It is, isn't it?
What do
Um,
you want to ask me about opportunities?
I just wanted to, because I've shared my story a little bit about how I went
Hmm.
from phone support agent to where I am right
Yeah.
now because of the opportunities in Malwarebytes,
Yeah.
because of the mentorships.
Yeah.
How important is this for you, and how do you see this in Malwarebytes, and
Yeah.
how do you handle this?
It, I am an example of opportunities offered and provided.
Hmm.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Anybody who has just heard my journey and how I arrived where I'm at, um, it's because I was paying attention to the opportunities as they presented themselves.
Yeah.
Um, I'm pretty passionate about this. Look, going back all the way to, my journey from marketing and advertising into L&D, there are pivotal moments throughout my career where I leaned in and said yes.
Hmm.
Was I scared? Yeah, 100%. Did I think I had the actual experience needed for that role? Yeah, not at all. And yet I continued to push forward and say
Hmm.
yes, because what was going to be the worst thing that was going to happen? That I might
Yeah.
not get the job, or that I might get into the role and then actually be terrible at it and be told I need to leave. I mean, yeah, those are some pretty big life moments and,
Hmm.
potential risks, 100%. But without taking that chance,
Hmm.
I would never be where I am here today. And I do go back, um, when I said yes to the opportunity at Duarte and had a lengthy conversation about what they really needed in that role. Did I need to have subject matter expertise in instructional design? No, they had somebody who was going to do the design work. Did I need to have deep knowledge in this client base, of the world of HR? No, I
Hmm.
had proof points along my career of working with all kinds of different functional areas and
Hmm.
companies. And, I could just go in and learn that too. So looking at that, and then also, then saying yes to the opportunity to run the people team, it was similar. Did I have the expertise? Did I have this? Did I
Hmm.
have that? What did they really need for the role? And I said yes. I said yes. And that's really what I want to encourage everyone who's listening.
Hmm.
Um, Throughout your career, there's going to be a straight line trajectory. That is going to be fantastic, but I guarantee you there's going to be a zig and a zag.
Hmm.
And you just need to be ready for the zigs and the zags. Um, it's not going to be perfect. It'll be those bumpy roads. You might not stay terribly long at a particular company because you
Hmm.
tried it, it didn't really work out. And that's okay. That's the learning that you need to do for yourself in order to really know where you're going. And nobody is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Not your best friend, not your partner, not your mom, not your manager. You have to do
Hmm.
it. And I sit here today with gray hair because it is hard work. And I'm not
It is.
sugarcoating it. It was hard work 2.5 years ago when I said yes to this role. We were just getting Vector on board, and, there was a lot of tough conversations and tough work that needed to be done. So don't be afraid. Give it a go, even if it's a small project,
Hmm.
and it doesn't all magically fall in your lap either. You have to be looking for
Hmm.
opportunities. So if there's a project that you'd like to really get involved with, but you might not have a particular expertise, ask if you can shadow that project.
Yeah.
Can I just follow along? Especially if you want to move functional areas, that's great. Or go out and have informational interviews with the people here in the company. We're all happy to
Hmm.
talk. Um, so, you're going to have to manifest where you want to go. And, you think about your own career trajectory and, the different things that you had to do along the way. I hope, some of what I'm sharing kind of resonates with that.
All of it. Because I think what you're saying, and I mean, first of all, this is great advice, and second of all, it is terrifying. It
Hmm.
is terrifying to
Hmm.
go off that beaten
Hmm.
path, right? And
Yep.
sometimes it does go quote unquote wrong.
I,
I've had it. I have not been in the right role, and but there's a quote that's saying like, I didn't fail, I learned, and I think that's it.
right,
I mean,
right.
even if you're in a role that might not be right for you, you're still taking stuff from that experience into your
Absolutely.
next role. And I think
Absolutely.
that's so important. And the other thing, I could talk to you for another 7 hours, but the other thing that I like what you're saying is take those opportunities, because one of the worst things people can say to me if I say, I've come here, I've come so far, it's like, oh, you were very lucky.
Oh
And it's like,
no, this is not luck.
that has not, yeah, sometimes it's a combination of being at the right place at the right time, having the right manager, having the right, but it's still hard work. And yes, there's also gray hairs under this head I'm dying there, because it is difficult and
Yeah.
it is terrifying. And especially when you're, like me, I have terrible imposter syndrome every now and again. Um, it is,
Pretty much
yeah,
every day
yeah,
for my entire life.
every now and again, but it's definitely every day.
Whatever.
It's
Those little
hard
voices
work.
in the back of my head.
You
Yeah.
can't do this.
Yeah.
It's hard
No
work,
way.
but it's fine.
Hmm.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes things won't go exactly the way you planned it. And sometimes it works out even better than when you planned
Yeah.
it, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't. And this is what I love. And I like, I'm like a walking billboard for Malwarebytes every now and again. But this is what I love working here. And I think we do have the opportunities. We do have their mentorship program. We do have
Yeah.
people who would be great at just, just hop on, just shadow me for a few
Yeah.
days or a few months. And then you can also see, is this something that you would aspire to? Or,
Yeah.
and this is what I love about working here. As I said, I could talk, we've been
Yeah.
35 minutes, but I could
I
talk to you
know.
for
I
another
know.
hour.
You know, look, I read every single comment. I am not joking. Every single comment that comes through the engagement survey. Last year, I think it was like 2,500 plus. So I read
Wow.
all of them. I take them all to heart. We do our very best to get our leaders and our managers to focus
Hmm.
on things and to improve along the way. And one
Yeah.
of the saddest set of comments is when folks say there isn't any, I'm not developing. And it
Yeah.
it really truly makes me sad. Small advertisement for the people team. We do have learning opportunities for
Hmm.
sure. In fact, Janelle is doing a True Colors this morning with the finance team. We have Franklin Covey. We have all of these kinds of things that are available.
Hmm.
Um, and we have each other. So,
Yeah.
when I just mentioned about, reaching out to somebody and say, "Hey, tell me a little bit more about your role." I'm kind of interested in that. Um, the person who is hearing that and gets that ask, make time for that person.
Yeah.
Have a cup of coffee, do it over Zoom, whatever. Make time for that person because you're imparting some knowledge and wisdom. They're coming to you because you are a subject matter expert in your
Hmm.
field. And I just want to encourage that. It does not all have to be perfectly outlined on BytesNet, wrapped up with a bow that has, PDFs and printouts. We learn every single day.
Hmm.
And truly, if you really in your heart of hearts believe that there aren't any development opportunities, please get with your people business partner. Please, please, please. They're good people. Reach out to me. I'll connect you. Because I never want people to think that there's no way to learn. And developing is different. Again, I'm going to do a little
Hmm.
people team. It's different than promotions and salary increases. Developing and learning is information that you take, knowledge that you take that can never
Hmm.
be taken away from you. And they are different. Hopefully, with development and learning and all of that, you will advance and you will
Hmm.
get promotions and increases. And that's the hope and the dream. But get curious and learn for the sake of learning, because that's something that can never be taken away from you.
I think that's the best thing to end on. Thank you so much for
You're
all
so
your wisdom.
welcome.
I think
Anytime.
people in Malwarebytes and outside of Malwarebytes can learn a lot from this. And I really appreciate you as a human being, and I really appreciate what you're
Aw,
doing. And thank you
thank
so much for
thank you.
being here. And I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you,
All
everyone,
right.
for watching. And see you at the next one. Thank you so much, Laura. And
Bye,
we'll see each other
everybody.
soon.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye bye.